So I got coffee here. I got one of these coffees. It's going to jack me up. And then I got a couple brewskis to help hold it down. So got to balance it out. To all the kids watching for the first time, since this is a kids episode, this is called adulthood. So you need a little stimulant and then you need a little depressant. You got to balance it out. Life's about balance. Lesson 1.
Lesson 1, coffee and booze. It's like peanut butter and chocolate, only for adults.
That's right. Later, we'll talk about drugs. It's Christmas time. You and I are clearly in the spirit.
In the spirit.
You have your Nakatomi Plaza shirt on. I have my Paris Hilton Jesus Message shirt on.
Yowzers.
That's my favorite Bible parable. Stop being poor.
And the Lord said, don't be poor.
So this is special. This is special, Keith. This is especially special.
It's especially special. Do you want to explain why it's especially special on the special occasion?
It's especially special on the special occasion because, A, it's our first ever Christmas film, maybe our first ever holiday themed film,
Yeah.
I think.
We've done no Halloween movies. We've done no Valentine's Day movies.
2+ years in, I don't know, Malcolm and Marie could be a Valentine's Day.
We'll try slitting your wrist with a pair of nail scissors.
It could be considered. That came out right around then, I think. But yeah, it's our first holiday film, and it's also another long-awaited viewer recommendation episode, of which we haven't had one in a while.
We have not.
It's also the first time a child has requested a video.
Well,
No.
The Tim and his family were the Ghostbusters episode.
That's true.
There was some kids involved, at least.
Yeah.
So, gotta
That's
want to
fair.
give Tim his credit.
I stand corrected. I'm sorry. Tim, I apologize.
How dare you? Tim, I love you, please.
Our dear friend of the program, Derek Brook,
Yes.
who himself has submitted a viewer recommendation way back yonder. We did the episode on American Psycho,
Yeah.
which is a great episode. People should go back and revisit that
People should watch it. We wore suits.
right now. Yeah, we're in suits.
We're in suits.
It's very
Did
classic.
You want to see that?
Very classic. But his son, Jack, is 10 years old and is, dare I say, kind of a fan. And he made a video.
What is he a fan of?
Me. No. the Bluff Council. The Bluff Council, Keith. He likes me, he likes you, he likes our show. Semi-questionable parenting by Derek.
Yeah, it's really, it brings into question a lot of things for Derek. That's going to fall squarely on his shoulders. Because I have a daughter. I won't let her anywhere near this show.
We really appreciate all of the support. We do not endorse allowing your children to watch every episode.
Yes, absolutely not. I do. I take no responsibility for your children.
But Jack, I've met him in person. Very swell young man. And has a lot of
seems great.
really cool thoughts about a lot of things, including this film, which we'll let him introduce.
My favorite movie is The Nightmare Before Christmas because it was the first movie that I ever saw that I really enjoyed, and I think that Keith and Ev should review The Nightmare Before Christmas. This is one of my favorite movies, and I really enjoy the stop motion and all of that. My favorite part of that movie is when Jack Skellington is flying through the air, and I just really enjoyed the stop motion with the lights and the fog, and I thought that was a really good combination of things.
Thank you, Jack. I think it's actually funny because it's one of the things I did want to talk about is the stop motion animation. Classic Keith here. I've done no research. I just watched the film and I speak from the heart, and that's what you get here at the Bluff.
Hang on,
Council.
had you seen the film before?
I'd never seen the film before.
Wow.
I had never
That's
seen
quite
it.
We're of the generation where, we were 9-10 years old.
Where you would have seen it, yeah. But I want to talk about the stop motion because it's relevant to this moment in time.
Okay.
Because of young Jack. I thought the stop motion had a nice feel, had a nice combination of the sort of the old claymation like holiday specials. It was like, it felt like those things,
Yeah.
like those old ones, and sort of in terms of their like style, that old claymation. And I don't know if it was on design or just how that animation works typically, but it felt a little more choppy, a little more stuttery, and I thought it really added to the Halloween aspects of it, the sinister, a little uneasy. It like wasn't smooth, it wasn't shiny. It added to those characters having it animated that way. That sort of it just wasn't as like pleasing to the eye. It wasn't as gentle of the animation. I thought, wow, that if they did that on purpose, that's really smart to blend those sort of two feels together, those traditional Christmas animations with a little bit of unease. Because it felt like they removed frames. Like we were talking about 24 frames, 30 frames a second. Traditionally, films are 24 frames a second. It felt like it was like 19 frames a second. You know, it just felt a little more like choppy, a little more uneasy or more difficult to watch in a good way if it sort of leaned into the characters a bit. So I thought that was really interesting, and I think it's interesting as Jack as a young man picking up on that. Good for
Yeah.
you. Intelligence.
Yeah.
Love it. Better than Everett.
For now, Jack, we're coming for you in a few minutes. Yes, the stop motion I think is great. It's as a veteran film director of many stop motion films myself throughout my youth.
Hold on a sec, who's that? Quicksilver! Quicksilver, who's on TV?
Really awful. You talk about 19 frames a second. Mine were about 2 frames a second, just like bap, bap, bap. Huge jumps and movement. Yeah, the stop motion it's really interesting to watch through today's lens because this kind of thing isn't really a thing anymore. Everything is computerized and awful. But so yeah, that was. I agree with you. Like the general vibe, the nature of the animation and its imperfections add to like the general vibe and tone and ambiance of the film in a really good way.
Yeah. So credit.
Yeah, credit. What? So I want big picture stuff though. Do you remember why you didn't watch it? Like why you didn't see it as a child? Because every kid saw this.
Yeah, except for me, because I have taste. I was too busy watching Dumb and Dumber. I don't want to be so negative so early. But
this is your perceptions of the film when you were 9 or 10. So it's not.
But my perceptions are the same because I have the same taste as 10-year-old Keith as 40-year-old Keith.
Your taste was locked in at an early age.
Locked in at an early age. So it doesn't really matter. It just Tim Burton as a whole never really did it for me. And the two movies that I do like of his, you know, I like it's despite him. It's not because of him. I like Batman and Beetlejuice, even though they are dripping with his sort of essence.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Beetlejuice is Tim Burton as a gets.
Tim Burton, right? But it's I don't know. They're outliers to me. Or they're just the best versions of him, which I gravitate towards. I don't gravitate towards the middle of Tim Burton. I don't like generally sort of just his aesthetic. It's not something I enjoy watching. So I remember it and being like, oh, this is like creepy and weird, and I'm not trying to like demean it, but just why it didn't resonate with me. Like,
it wasn't for you.
Yeah, it just wasn't for me.
Yeah, well, and we'll talk about Tim Burton later. Despite the fact this film not a Tim Burton film.
Well, it's produced by him and written. The characters are based on him. Like it's like his story.
His
that feel like
fingerprints
he gave.
are all over it.
All
to be
over
sure.
It. Yeah,
but
so
I was personally surprised to read that it wasn't him because I would have bet the house that it was directed.
I thought
by
he
Tim
would have
Burton.
directed. I thought he directed it. He did not. And he didn't technically write it, but it says like characters based on his.
Yeah. He wrote a poem.
Yeah.
It was all his stuff. So it's very Tim Burton-y, even insofar as the initial release was called Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah. So you can't tell me it's not his film.
Well, here's the twist for you, baby.
Ooh.
I had never seen it before either.
So how could you not see it as a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old boy?
I hate everything about this because it's the same reason as you. I hate it. It makes me sick. It makes my skin crawl like I'm in this movie and it's a song about it. I can remember not wanting to see it as a child. because I thought it looked kind of gross. I was a sensitive boy. I'm not into like that, the look of it. I wasn't into the character design as a kid. I also, even as a kid, never really liked Tim Burton's aesthetic. Like, you know, it's so funny to say that as a 9-year-old, but I knew enough about Tim Burton to be like, oh yeah, I know the people who love Tim Burton stuff, and they're not me, and that's not a judgment. Because that's, everybody knows throughout their life people who really love Tim Burton stuff. Like, they're like obsessed, and they go to Hot Topic. It's all right. We all have our stores. We all have our things that we like.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not, again, no judgment. It's a beloved film, this one. But as a kid, I was just not interested. And so I'm actually really grateful to Jack for recommending this film. Because even initially, we saw the video that Jack submitted, and I was like, oh man, I don't want to watch this movie. But I had no reason to feel that way. And now I've watched it, and there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, this is where we get dicey, Jack. This is where we get dicey. I'm going to say it right now. I think, Jack, the only reason you like it because the main character's also named Jack. Prove me wrong.
I think a little bias. A little bias creeping in, Jack.
Bias.
Second favorite movie is Pirates of the Caribbean.
I'm Captain Jack Sparrow.
Third favorite movie is Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack, what other points you got here?
Do you have a favorite song in this movie?
Probably, This Is Halloween.
This is Halloween. This is Halloween.
Just a real quick shout out to drunk, slurry dad Derek in the background of this entire video. Really ups the production value there, Derek. So Jack loves This Is Halloween. It's his favorite song. Let's talk about the music, Keith. It is a musical. It's a musical.
Something I did not know. Another thing I did not know going into it, and another reason I probably didn't want to watch it. I'm not a musical guy. I'm not. I don't love song and happiness.
Joy, happiness.
Joy. Yeah. So I was interested. I was like, oh wow, they're really this. Not only is it a musical, it feels like it's only a music, like only music. Feels like there's more music than there is dialogue.
I was really surprised by that part of it. Because I remember once it started, I remembered knowing, oh yeah, there's a lot of songs in this. I had also kind of forgotten that fact. But then that was the part, and there were some songs I really enjoyed, other songs I did not enjoy as much, but the songs I did not enjoy as much were those like singing dialogue songs.
Yeah.
Like not the actual songs. Like This Is Halloween, it was cool. I really liked that song, What's This? What's this? When he goes into the Christmas land for the first time, like I thought this is a great song. That was when the movie really like started on an uptick for me, and I really enjoyed that whole sequence. But then there was just parts where I was like, oh, why is this person singing their dialogue?
Yeah,
like,
they're just singing.
There's not a song
the point.
happening, you know.
Yeah.
That was a little strange.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's funny that I don't like that we're kind of so similar aligned, and we'll see how closely we are for the rest of the episode. But
Yeah, it's disgusting.
yeah, it sickens me. But yeah, it was the music for me as an adult now was kind of hit or miss, and it also kind of didn't feel like the songs separated themselves from one another so much. So it kind of felt, this is like, it kind of became a little white noisy to me as the music went on. It all had that like baritone-y, bassy, like that like sort of cadence to it. Like it just kind of felt like, I don't want to say one note, but it didn't feel like the music really different. It was tonally consistent. Maybe that's a good thing, but just like tonally consistent the whole way through. And since there wasn't a lot of dialogue breaking it up, it just felt most of it was just singing me the dialogue in this one sort of Halloween tone. It felt like Haunted Mansion, like that ride from the Haunted Mansion. I don't know if in Disneyland or Disney World.
I think that's literally a Nightmare Before Christmas one now, isn't it? Like I feel like they've worked
adapted
in,
it.
Yeah,
maybe they have, but that's what it feels like. It's all that sort of like, it's all like tenors and baritones and it's just like that's what it just felt like. It felt like all
like
of that.
chanting, lots of chanting.
Yeah.
I think we're kind of dancing around, like just saying what we think about the movie. So
Do you
I'll
wanna
just say, I'll say first, like, honestly, no BS. Jack's a very mature young man.
He can handle it.
He watches this show, so he's been forced into maturity. Like, so I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. There's a lot I really like about this movie. There
As
really
you
is.
sugarcoat it. It's funny. I'm not going to sugarcoat
No,
it.
I'm not.
But I mean, I like a lot about it.
No, there's a lot I don't like about it, and I'm gonna get into both of those things. To me, it was a very worthwhile watch because I had never seen it, and it is right around Christmas time. And there was like 3, 4, 5 things that I want to talk about that I think are really great, and then there's like 3 pretty major things that I don't like. And so I think it's the perfect kind of movie to discuss because if a movie's all good, then that conversation can be a little boring, and if a movie is The Gray Man, then that conversation can be a little boring. It's
Yeah, because it's perfect. Because you can't
as
talk
we
about...
go through time, you're just gonna start ratcheting it up. It's better than Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane, 100%. Yeah.
So what did you think about it?
It's similar to you. I feel like we had the same experience just across the country. It's fine. It's fine. Here's what I'll say. This movie is not for me, unfortunately. So therefore I don't really like it. But if I say, is this movie good or are there good craft elements of this film? Sure. I can point to some things and go, like the stop motion, for example, and that world building he does really well. And I go, that's really good. Like there are things like that I can point to objectively and say, this is good for filmmaking's sake. Do I like it? Did I enjoy it? Unfortunately, this one's not for me. I'm sorry, Jack.
Jack, if I wasn't your favorite already, I think that's just
he said the
cemented.
same thing, Jack. We both hate it.
No, I'll tell you the great things. I'll tell you the things I think are great, and you can tell me if you want to discuss any of those things in further detail. So I think the stop motion is largely great. I think the general look, as we've discussed, is really cool and unique.
Yes.
I think the overall originality, if that can be this overarching word, I think the originality of this film is fantastic. Like, there's not a lot of original things in the world, especially now. So I love the story. Like, I love the setup that each holiday has its own special town, and a guy from Halloween wanders into the Christmas town. I would have loved to see a little more of that, where he went into a couple of the other ones first, and then was like, oh, I don't want this, and goes, anyways. I love that general concept and premise. Thought that was wonderful. Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I agree. I feel like the film, it turns into a negative because I only focus on the negative, I'm sorry. But to your point, I feel like Jack exploring Christmastown more robustly, a fish out of water tale. And the funniest things I found were, him giving a severed head to kids on Christmas and thinking like, that's a good idea, right? Like that fish out of water tale, him being in a Christmas world and that holiday cheery and him trying to embody that and embrace change, I thought is the best part of the movie, and it was like the smallest part of the movie. I thought we spent too much time in Halloween Town rather than finding more Christmassy, him trying to find what Christmas is to him. So yes, I agree, it's great, but on the flip side, I feel like they missed the most interesting part of the film.
That's interesting too. I agree. I felt like I didn't like most of what happened in Halloween Town, but I liked most of what happened everywhere else.
Yeah.
Another thing that I thought was excellent, for the most part, with one glaring exception, I thought the vocal performances all did really great. I was really interested in the cast, reading the people who are featured.
It's unbelievable.
Why? What do you?
I literally did the same thing, and I was like, oh my god, it's like Beetlejuice all over again. Like there's there's a couple of people from Beetlejuice and Pee Wee Herman, who I realized looking through the IMDb is that Tim Burton directed Pee Wee's Big Adventure, I believe.
Yeah,
which
one of those.
I didn't realize either. I was like, wow. So he had a lot of familiar faces from the voice acting side.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really interesting.
I thought it was really fascinating that Jack was voiced by Chris Sarandon, who is Humperdinck.
I knew it. I knew you were bluffing. I knew he was bluffing.
Good for that.
Humperdinck.
I was gonna cuss. Good for that real jerk. Good for that guy. He's such a great you know, I don't know any words that aren't profanity.
I know
he's such
7
a great-
words. 5 of them are not
yeah.
good. You can't say them on TV.
He's such a great villain in Princess Bride, and so it's interesting to hear him. Interesting that Danny Elfman sings Jack's parts while Chris Sarandon does his speaking parts.
Yeah.
That was a pretty seamless match. That was good casting. My favorite person who turned up, I gotta check his name here, William Hickey. William Hickey is the voice of the mad scientist father figure to Sally.
You've poisoned me for the last time, you wretched girl.
Oh, yeah.
The guy in the wheelchair.
But you know who he is, right? You know
Yes.
what?
Yes. Uncle Lewis.
Yes. As soon as I heard his voice, I go,
Yes.
this is Uncle Lewis.
My favorite, Uncle Lewis, who steals the show in the greatest Christmas film of all time, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
We need to do an episode
hear a
on
dump
it.
truck driving through a
I know,
nitroglycerin plant. His delivery of all those lines.
Yeah.
Oh. Love that guy. So I was so happy I heard his voice. I was like, oh my God, that guy's so great.
I couldn't unhear his voice.
Oh, he's so good. Love him. But the person that I think this hurts me, pains me to say, I think Catherine O'Hara does a really bad job.
That's Catherine O'Hara does not do a bad job in anything, in my opinion.
I know.
So
She's phenomenal.
So how dare you? I'm sorry, Catherine, that you have to sit here and listen to this.
It's like if you're doing vocal acting, Catherine O'Hara, let me teach you a little something. If you're doing vocal acting, one would think that you can still be understated, but you put a little more in, like, you have to give it something. And almost every single one of her lines is delivered as like kind of blandly and almost emotionless as possible.
Oh, I was trying to. Well, I wanted to.
I blame
Maybe
the
that's
directing.
a choice because she's like a rag doll of a sewn together Frankenstein person.
Yeah.
But it's very much like everybody else is like putting a little, like doing what you do, add a little flair, add a little, and her line delivery is just like, Jack, I really don't think you should do this.
But it seems wrong to me.
Oh no. Why would he go ahead and try this? It's so muted.
Yeah.
And it was almost kind of distracting.
Yeah, but I don't blame her. I guarantee that was not her choice.
It seems weird because she's such a talent and she's such a big personality.
So we know Moira Rose can do it.
Won't you join me for a little stroll through the slice of paradise I like to call the town where I currently am?
Yeah, we know she can be as big and as boisterous as the best can. So I would have to say that was some sort of a conversation at worst where they agree that this is how this should be done.
No, I mean maybe, but it's still weird. It's still a weird choice. It feels like a misuse of such a wonderful talent in a way.
Sure, that's a nice one. You should have led with that.
It's a misuse.
Yes, of a beautiful talent.
Of the great Catherine O'Hara.
Yes, a Christmas movie legend.
Kevin!
And obviously, I'm talking about Surviving Christmas. Which I love that. I actually really do like that film.
Is that the one with Gandolfini and?
Yes, and it got panned. Affleck. It was like
Yeah.
Affleck is the
guy.
lead. I would love to do an episode on it, to be honest with you, because it got destroyed and like just didn't have a chance. And I think it is a very underrated Christmas movie. Very underrated.
I'll see your Affleck Christmas movie and raise you another one. I'm a big reindeer games guy.
We have derailed, Jack. I am sorry.
I saw reindeer games in the theater. All right, that had Sinise, had naked Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
Yeah. Trying to think, is there another Affleck Christmas movie I can pull out of my ass right now? And I'll see it, and I'll raise you. I can't think of. I think I think of another one.
You got that Thanksgiving movie.
Gobble, gobble.
We can't put that clip in. It's a kid's
You gotta
episode.
put that clip in. You gotta.
On that note, let's turn it over to Jack, who wants to talk about the characters. He likes the characters.
Okay. Tell me more, Jack.
So I really enjoy Jack Skellington because he was just a really good character, and I feel like he tried to explore his new surroundings, and I feel like that's a good characteristic to him, And also because he learns something from doing that, and then he can change that. And with Oogie Boogie, I feel like he was just a good character because, like, if Jack Skellington just, everything was great, like, and Oogie Boogie wasn't bad, there would be no story. There would be no meaning to the story, to the thing. It would just be happy everything. So that's why I enjoy Oogie Boogie and Jack Skellington.
For a young kid, sort of learning about movies, or just, when you ask a kid what they liked about a film, like, I feel like most kids would be like, explosion, or that joke, that the guy who said this line.
When he farted and stepped in the poo?
Yeah. But young Jack here is really touching upon, like, the core of filmmaking. It was like, you need good versus evil, you need that conflict. And for him to say, to have the main character's arc be the reason, his journey be the reason why I really like that character. Like, that's essentially what he's saying. It's like, it's smart, it's intelligent, it's the seeds of understanding, like, how to make, like, how films work.
Yeah.
Which I wish you would have. I wish you could talk to you.
Well, here's the problem, Jack.
I'm just impressed. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I'm not even blowing smoke. I'm not bullshitting. I shouldn't say that. Rats. But I'm impressed. I'm impressed with that answer, with that discussion.
I'm also impressed. I'm more impressed. I'm impressed more so with the second half of that, Jack, because I agree with the Oogie Boogie comparison that at first I wasn't sure about all the aspects of that character, but then, to Jack's point, you do need to have some evil presence or a villain to balance out the overall story and to enable Jack's progress. Where I take issue, very respectfully, Jack,
boy,
with your namesake, Jack Skellington. I was kind of confused at the end of this film because I was like, wait a minute, did Jack learn anything? Did Jack go through any changes? And then I had to rewind, and I went back to the part after he's shot down by the military, and he's laying in that statue in the graveyard or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so maybe I missed a line where he, like, there's a reason why he learned the error of his ways. But I didn't. And he not just does not learn the error of his ways, he's like, for half of a second, he's like, what have I done? I've completely made such a mess. And then he's immediately like, but I had a great time, and I'm Jack Skellington.
I went and did my best.
King of Halloween, and I can't wait for Halloween. Oh no, I better go try and save the day. But there's no, like, inciting incident that leads him to have a change of heart. Like, I don't see any growth in his character. If anything, it kind of celebrates not showing growth. And then he really gets there's no, like, consequences for him doing this horrible thing. And then at the end, Santa just kind of, like, low-key forgives him. He gets the girl who he doesn't deserve because he's treated her like crap the whole movie. And I'm just kind of like, wow, there was no real, like, because here's the other thing, sorry, real quick. He, like, to me, the natural thing that should have happened in this is that it's he learns the spirit of Christmas, right? He learns the meaning of Christmas. And the meaning of Christmas is not about your own selfishness or what you think or whatever. Like, it's about he's touched by the Christmasness of everything. That doesn't happen. He's shot down by the military, and then he kind of has like oh man, I blew it, but I'm still the king. Like, that's a little weird. It's a little weird.
I think. So I'm going to argue something that I don't like about the film to differentiate, to poke holes in what you're saying.
Because you like me less.
Yeah. Yes. So one of my criticisms of the film, and I'll use it lightly, is there is no real story. It just kind of happens. Like, it just kind of happens. Like, it just.
I disagree with that.
Oh, well, then we can argue. It's the thinnest. It is, like, just razor thin of, like, what the point of this film is. So you're nitpicking about the end of the film, to me, sounds like nitpicking, because let me finish, my good man.
I'm not interrupting you. Go ahead.
I don't like your face. I don't like the gyrations. And I can't curse. I want to curse, but I can't. I don't like those 360s. Don't you 360 on me. So to nitpick the end. The end is as superficial as it seems. He gets shot down by the military, which is just funny to continue to say. But he just realizes the realization. You're right. It's not like a huge growth. It just realizes like, hey, Christmas is not for me. That's how I interpret it. He goes, it's not for me. It's not my thing. So I shouldn't be forcing myself on Christmas because Christmas isn't for me. It's for Santa Claus, it's for these other people. But I'm the king of the pumpkins.
I'm David Pumpkins.
That's who I am. So he sort of reaffirms who he is and then wants to go back to being who he always felt he was, like the sweet spot of who he is. Because in the beginning he wants to give up on who he is and find a new version of himself. But then realizes that's just not who he is. He's fitting a round peg into a square hole, or whatever that phrase is. I kept saying it too as I'm watching the end of the film. I'm like, there has to be some part of Christmas that stays with them. There has to be something that they take from this experience in some way, and it just turned out to be snow. Like that was the thing that they like took from this experience. And I didn't really like that either. It just wasn't. Nothing was enough for me to like have any real motivation for anything. Like it just kind of happened. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, it's weird that like the lessons of Christmas or whatever don't play a bigger role. Like that's
correct. But then you think about it and you go, well, this isn't really a Christmas movie. You think it's a Christmas movie? It's a Halloween movie. It's a movie about Halloween because he doesn't save Christmas. He doesn't take Christmas with him. He tries to figure out Christmas and then goes, no, I'm a Halloween dude because I love Halloween. And you think about the tone of the film, it's all about sort of celebrating that sort of unique interpretation of the world. That's like Tim Burton's sort of trademark. These are unapologetic people to who they are. They're quirky, they're different, they go against the conventional norms, and they love that.
They love Hot Topic.
They basically just love Hot Topic. So they're not like the end of this film isn't going to be like, oh, we're all going to be smiling and sharing fun presents and loving each other, and like that's not ever how this film was ever going to end, because it's about Halloween and being weird and creepy and having spiders in your hair, not learning the real true meaning of Christmas.
Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting conversation about because I feel like people file this more under a Christmas movie than a Halloween movie.
But they're wrong.
No, I know. I'm curious about that because I think people think it's a Christmas movie, but it would have to Christmas would have to have played a role in the resolution,
And it does not.
Which is why your T-shirt is also not a Christmas film.
This is how I've wanted to just. This is more of a Christmas movie than A Nightmare Before Christmas, in my opinion.
We've probably had this argument before, but you lost the tape.
I did. I deleted it. We had a whole episode.
It's so clearly not. I don't want to have this. We're not going to have this conversation. So it's just I'm going to say something, and then you're going to shut up. All aspects of the story have nothing to do with the holiday. End. The end.
But to me, Die Hard is more of a Christmas movie than Nightmare Before Christmas. Nightmare Before Christmas is 100% a Halloween movie, which is fine, but it is what it is.
Let's do a quick Tim Burton, because even though this film is not directed by Tim Burton, as we mentioned, it's oozing.
Yeah, it's Tim Burton's
energy.
A Nightmare Before Christmas, so it is heavily influenced by his uniqueness and his. He's created his own genre, I feel like, which is good for him.
Tim Burton movies.
Yeah, it's like a Tim Burton movie. It's anytime you hear a movie is done by Tim Burton, you like, oh, I know exactly what this is going to look and feel like. To his credit, that's cool.
So it's like those are usually, because he has some outliers, but I would say usually kind of campy, kind of creepy, adjacent, that's kind of
like playfully dark.
Yeah. That's good. Playfully dark.
Like playfully dark. Because it's not like too sinister. It's like a fun, playful darkness.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever done just an all-out, R-rated.
Yeah, it's never really
serious film.
oh no, I gotta, I'm it's all campy and fun and playful. It's like on the positive side, but like, yay, I'm eating worms. This is awesome.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, cool. So here's my thing. This is we're touching on it already. I think it's great that Tim Burton exists. I think it's great that Wes Anderson exists. I think it's great that Scorsese exists. There are directors who, when you hear their name, you see their work, you go, that's them. Spike Lee. Like, there are just directors who you just know that they directed this movie, and their influence is just all over it, and you can't get away from it. And Tim Burton is one of those people. I would put him in that category, and it's great that he exists. Do I like it? Am I on Team Tim Burton? Unfortunately not, and I don't mean to say that in an insulting way. It's just not for me. It's not my taste. It's not for me, and that's okay. But I think it's awesome that, for two reasons. For people who want to make films, to see there are other ways to make films. There are non-traditional stories, there are non-traditional characters to tell stories about in unique and interesting ways. And he's an example of that, and a successful one at that. So great. That's awesome for filmmakers. And it's great for people to identify who feel sort of lonely in the world, who feel like they don't fit in these certain molds, that they're different or unique, and their views are skewed on the world. So they have that sort of representation. So it's great for viewers who don't give a shit about film. They just look at entertainment and say, I want to identify with someone in movies, and I don't identify with The Rock. So I want to identify with Edward Scissorhands, or whomever. So I think that's awesome that it exists. So good for him and good for those types of films. It's just not films that I'm going to go out and necessarily rush to see.
Yeah, it's nice for all the freaks in the world that they have movies too.
All those fucking losers.
Just kidding. No, I agree. I'm happy when anything kind of a little outside of the box is successful like that. And I see a lot of movies that I'm like, I didn't really like that, but I'm happy it got made because movies, we are already so far into the cookie cutter, mass produced stage of things. We've been in that stage for a while. That it's, I've always appreciated Tim Burton's weirdness while really not liking most of his movies myself.
We have on record how you feel about Tim Burton.
Tim Burton is trash.
So
he shouldn't have just turned to remakes as it gets older. It's a little lazy, Tim.
That's all Hollywood is.
I know. But lazy. That's the problem. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Batman reference.
Jack, is there anything else you want to say?
I don't know about me, but my friends would.
See you making fun of how small Keith's...
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Thank you, Jack.
Jack, I just want to say I'm really disappointed. I offered Jack $50 cash to say something disparaging about Keith's size.
You made the right decision. You made the right decision. It's inappropriate.
He's a better man than Derek and I.
That's not saying much.
It's a low bar.
It's a low bar.